Good afternoon and welcome to How to Find and Approach Potential Sponsors. This afternoon, I want to go through all the things we didn't have a chance to go through this morning, which are not only once your proposal and your offer is so perfect, but who to actually send it to. And the key here is where are they and how do you make the approach? My name's Julian Moore. I'm Australia's foremost partnership practitioner for non-profits, associations and so forth in Australia. My background really comes from the UK, and since being here for the last 12 years, we've helped, oh my word, just thousands of associations to achieve their partnership goals. If you would like to know more, my contact details will be on the end slide and on the front one too. So let's jump straight into this. The first things first, all your proposals must address COVID-19. Now, with the pandemic going on, it's a global issue. Different countries are resolving it in different ways and getting to grips with this faster and slower in different situations. So whoever you're approaching is in the same boat as you. Most will be working from home. And even when we do go back, a lot will never have face-to-face meetings as we used to have when we could turn up and go for a coffee or something. So those types of things are going to take time. Now, keep that in mind, that when you're approaching these sponsors with your proposals, with your offer, with the ask of a partnership, keep in mind, first thing we need to understand is how are they currently doing business? Are they doing it by Zoom? Are they working in an office? Are they working at home? Are they using GoToMeeting? Are they using FaceTime? Are they using Messenger? There's a host of different options. We need to know which ones they're choosing, and so that we can work with them the way they want to work. It's about making it easy, people, making it easy for the sponsors so that we can work the way they want to. So partnerships, how many times do we ever hear it's all about relationships? But no one ever understands or mentions why. Well, essentially, gaining a sponsor or gaining a partner is just establishing a relationship. And it's the same as every relationship you may have. You will want to know all about them in that first meeting, in that first phone call, in that first touching of base. They're going to want to know all about you. You're going to want to know all about them. So it's fine to ask all the questions to really understand, are they someone you want to work with? The initial point of a meeting is to establish not only do they have the fund, are they interested in what you're offering? Do they have the same objectives? Do they work with the same ethics? Are they someone you can work with long term? Are they someone that can provide your members and your stakeholders and your non-members a uplift, a kind of benefit that they can't get elsewhere? But also, are they good? Are they a nice organization? Someone you want to work with? Don't partner with someone that you don't like. Quite honestly, you've got to work with them for many, many months, in fact, some many years. So let's work out, are they someone you can work with? Are they someone you could see that your members would enjoy being aligned to and their products and services? So much like every relationship, step one, do you like them? From there, we need to work through these things this afternoon. Who should sell, the marketplace, prospective sponsors. So, well, let's not dilly-dally anymore. Let's jump straight into this. Who should sell sponsorship? Look, this always reminds me of buying a car. I went to buy a new car after Belinda finally let me go out and get one. And the car dealer saw me parking my car and walked straight to the entrance and stood waiting for me to get out of my car to walk into the showroom. And as I've walked towards the showroom, he's gone, "Can I help you?" And I've gone, "Yes, you can. You could step out of the doorway and let me in to see the cars." So it just goes to show anyone can sell sponsorship, just not everyone should. You want the person who's empathic. You want the person who genuinely wants to know about the other person. You want the person who's interested in how many cats they have, how many dogs, how many friends and children, and all the different bits. You need a people's person. You don't need a salesperson. We're not trying to sell here. We're trying to educate. And once we've educated, we want to form a contract with these organizations to work towards a mutually beneficial goal. So everyone does well. You do well, your members do well, and most of all, the sponsor and partner does well. So keep that in mind. You don't be the salesperson. And things like, the gift of the gab, it just means you don't know when to shut up. The key to selling partnerships and sponsorship is simply being the person with the most information about your organization and your industry in that room. Combine that with your own personality and combine that with some simple methods of understanding how the other person absorbs information, and you can't go wrong. Meetings and partnerships are really designed for people who can win confidence and win an understanding that the other person trusts you. With that level of trust, you can then go through each of their objectives, each of their challenges they're facing, and then better help them understand how your organization can hold their hand in overcoming their challenges and helping them achieve their objectives. So move away from sales, move into that kind of relationship building, and move into that consultative style of approach. Because when you start that approach with intelligence, knowledge of your industry, and a good personality that's genuinely interested in what the other person has to say, your meetings will become so much more successful. Now, we obviously have to establish our marketplace. So you know who your competitors are, you know who your main suppliers are, the key corporates, businesses. Now, all of these are the people that you're going to want to approach. So your competitors, you need to know simply because you need to know what events they're running and how they compete with your offering. Because what we want to do is make an offer that your competitors can't offer. The main suppliers, you're probably already going to them. Let's be honest, you more than likely for multiple years have known who the main suppliers in your industry are. And if they're not your partners yet, it's simply because you've not established a reason for them to become a partner. So readdress this. Go to those organizations that haven't got into a partnership with you previously for whatever reason, whether it was personal, previous individuals, whatever it may be. Now's the time. Right now, they've never done it harder because of the pandemic. They've never had a bigger challenge because of the pandemic. And you're never been in a better position than right now to help them achieve those new objectives. The key corporates, the businesses, what we want to do is obviously understand all these so we can actually go to them with an approach. So when you're identifying prospects, it's always better to understand what your offer is. So what events you run. It's always better to know what events you could run, how you're going to run those events. It's better to know your communications, what communications can be done, what are your own objectives. Would you like to do TV? Would you like to do radio? Would you like to use webinars, YouTube? Would you like your own closed social media environment? And how are you doing your communication? Do you still have traditional media? Do you still have mail outs? How is it being used within yours? And then from there, once you've got that communications, what research are you doing? From the research, and then what marketing are you doing? Once you've got all those listed out, you can now build an offer. But who to? You want to build that offer to identify about 40 of the top organizations that you could provide the most benefit to. It's the ones that you can really make a difference to and make them much more successful. When you understand who they are, you can then approach the top 40 rather than blasting an email out to thousands and thousands. Understand that if you send a cookie cutter approach of gold, silver, bronze out to a database of 6,000, it's like the never-ending black hole. You can send all these emails and never hear anything back. You're just wasting your time. Whereas if you send just identified top 40 proposals out to just the people that you can truly make a difference to, the ones that you can really offer unqualified or qualified even value to, so that you can make a difference and help them access your members in a meaningful way, and in return help your members be more successful because of the partnership you've got going on. These are the type of co-created, identified sponsors that you want to get in front of. So only go to those ones that you know you can make a difference to. Don't go scattergun approach and email blasting. It's just a waste of your time. And even if you do get something back from all this, it's going to be tenuous at best. What we want to do is establish long-term, high-value partnerships with organizations that want to work with you the way you want to work. So these are the things we need to keep in mind. Where are they? Who are they? What do they do? So let's jump straight in. So where are they? Well, normally what would happen now is in the workshop, I would ask a few people who were in front of me, and we would ask who they are and work through how to find them. But right now I see myself talking to a camera and with lots of people in the chat room here who I don't know what organizations they're from. So of course, right now what we have to do is start thinking about, how do we expand your horizons? Are you an organization that uses a huge amount of machinery? Because from machinery, we then have insurance. From insurance, we then have purchasing, so finance, where they've got a resale. So is there a resale market there? Can we go to any of the resale suppliers? Then after insurance and purchasing and resale, can we then start thinking about, well, fuel? From fuel, we then go into tires and consumables. And when we start looking through these sides of things, we start expanding our horizons. Draw yourself at the center of the page, or your member at the center of the page, and then draw circles around them. And in those circles, put the immediate suppliers, manufacturers, and industries that immediately come to mind, and then draw another circle and draw those industries that supply to the previous circle, and keep going out until you've got a list of all these ones you've never thought of. Check trade magazines. iSubscribe.com is a trade magazine website. You can go on and see all these trade magazines and see who is buying full page adverts within those trade magazines. Then what you can do is actually start approaching those people who are taking full, and in some case double page advert spreads in trade magazines that are trying to get hold of your members in a way it's just they're not using yourself. So you can now be assured that they have a budget to spend, a product to promote, or a service to promote, and they're trying to get hold of members. They're just not using you and your organization to do that at the moment. So where are they? Read the news. Every day you want to be right up to speed. And I'm not talking about newspapers. That news is old. I'm talking about things like Twitter, different news websites like Bloomberg and so forth. So you can keep up to speed of what's happening that day, so that you're as abreast of what's happening in the corporates as what's happening in your members. Because then you have the ability to react quickly Right now, we know that Virgin has just gone into voluntary receivership. And no one's announced anything that's going to happen, but we already know that there's 8 to 10 potential purchasers. Now, we know that the reason they're waiting for voluntary is because there's a 5 billion debt. So whoever comes on to take over that Virgin airline within Australia, we know they're going to have to buy some goodwill. So we know they're going to need to get people to use them quickly to start getting cash flow, to start getting the loyalty programs and so forth. There's never a better time than if you're running events and moving lots of people around to go and do a deal with an airline. So then we start looking at all those opportunities that we haven't previously thought about. The pandemic and COVID-19 has released a huge amount of opportunities for organizations that previously weren't there. And when the restrictions get lifted, and I'm talking domestically, the international borders will remain closed for a while, international travel will remain closed for a while, but domestically within Australia, everyone coming back, all the corporates coming back, are going to require something to get to let everyone know that they're back, that they're working, that they want to be involved. They're going to start wanting to market their asses off, quite honestly, and you can approach them and offer access to your members, people who have the ability to use their products and services so that they can get a sharper spike in uptake of use of their products and services. Now is the time to start writing these proposals. So the moment they announce that those relaxations on the domestic laws, we're ready to go. So who to approach within the organization? This was drawn to me by an old boss of mine when I first started doing this. I was about 19, 20 years old. And Bob was actually a tourism body, and Bob's actual name was Katie, funny enough. And I'd gone to see Katie and said, look, would you like to partner with us so you can access all these associations in London? And they said, yes. Katie came along, and very quickly they started doing very well, more events, more different tourism, business tourism events were being held in this tourism body's region. So very quickly, Katie then got promoted. And after she got promoted, the new person came in and said, thank you so much for being helping us be more successful, but we no longer need to get hold of associations. We won that business. We've identified now that we could do better in these other spaces. So I lost that contract because we helped them become more successful. However, when I went back to work, my boss has gone, look, Julian, the reason we lost this is simply Katie was the sales manager. And if you look where Bob is, at the bottom there, the movement is so much bigger. So your sales managers and your account managers and these types of things, they're all ambitious and they all want to be progressed and they all have a smaller budget. But of course, the movement is so much bigger because the turnover of staff is so much bigger. The further up the chain you go, the less movement there is until you get to the directors and the CEOs of this organization. So who to approach? Well, we approach the brand manager, the marketing or brand director, marketing director, sales director. You want to go in at a director level. If they're not available, go in at the CEO level. Because even if they're not the perfect person for what we're looking for, they will pass it to the correct person to deal with. Now you've got the boss handing you something and saying, can you deal with this for me? So they're going to action it much faster. So the people within the organizations you should approach are the marketing director first, brand director, sales director, CEO. Because when you start building a relationship at that level, it's going to be much longer lasting. It's going to be something that has a broader brush and something that you're then able to talk about all aspects of their organization instead of just that one niche aspect that the newer or smaller managers are targeted to deal with. You don't want to work there. You want to work at that higher level so you can offer much more benefit to an organization by offering their entire products and services out to your membership, or the ones that are most relevant. So when we're approaching prospects, these are a few methods that have been successful since COVID. So it's good to keep in mind these change. There's no guarantees. We never know what's happening at the moment. But right now, the approach, well, email. Now, email, I'm not great at. I have to be honest. I much prefer phone calls. But when it comes to email, there's a few do's and don'ts. The first thing is, make sure you have an email address, a direct email address, not info at or inquiries at. They're another black hole situation. What we want to do is go out to their personal email address. So if you don't have their email address, but you know the organization, well, it's very simple to find their email address. If we're looking for an organization such as, let's pick one at random. I've got a Logitech mouse here. So we're looking for Logitech. So now we know that their website is logitech.com. So now we know that. To find the person, we can simply use a LinkedIn or a Zoom or a range of databases where we can search for the brand director, the marketing director, the sales director, the CEO, whoever it may be you want to approach at Logitech. So then, now we know who it is at Logitech, we can then go on to Google and just put star at logitech.com into Google, and that will return all the email addresses that are on the internet for Logitech. Now we know other people's email address. We don't know their roles, we don't know what they do at Logitech, but we now know the format. So if we see one that's susan.w at logitech.com, well, we now know that the format for their email address is first name dot initial at Logitech. So as soon as we have the person's name we want to approach, we can simply put first name dot initial at Logitech. So as soon as we know the format, it could be first name dot surname, it could be first initial dot surname, but once you have the format, you can then know their email address, and then you can send that directly to them. Your proposal should be attached in a highly readable form. We covered that this morning. So it needs to be very attractive. It needs to be highly engageable. It needs to be very visible, stand out, and talk to them about them and what's in it for them. But you attach it to the email, because your email will form your covering letter. And on your covering letter, it needs to be written to them about them, so that it conveys very quickly that you're in a place to help them become more successful. You've identified their objectives and written a proposal to them on how you can help them achieve that. So keep in mind that you're writing a covering letter on the email, attaching your proposal. Always ask for the reply, send it directly to their email address, and that you're conveying the message you're going to help them be as successful as possible, as quickly as possible in this current environment. And Tuesdays, I'm not sure why, but at 10:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, you get a much higher level of open rate for emails. Whether that changes during COVID, I'm not sure, but right now, that's what I'm using. I send them on the Tuesday. The open rate seems to be in excess, well, it seems to be a 30% higher open rate at the moment. People are in front of their emailers and working on Tuesday at 10:30, it would appear. It's certainly not a time to go and get coffee. By phone, now this is how I do most of mine. I've got my proposal written. I've got it posted out to them. I've waited 10 days, and then I have followed up by phone. So that comes now, it's simply a case of, I'm not trying to sell anything by phone. Sales isn't involved here. What we're trying to do, remember, is educate them and let them know that we've done our homework and we know how we can assist them to be more successful. So when I pick up the phone and call them, my job is simply to find out, have they received my proposal? And then yes or no. Have they received my proposal? Yes. Wonderful. Have you had the chance to read it yet? And then from there, we then say, well, if you've had a chance to read it, you can clearly see some synergies that I've established between our organizations and how we can help you be more successful accessing this group of individuals in these ways. Look, I know I've just called you, but can we organize a time for a Zoom catch-up, for a multi-person catch-up, whatever it is, the way you're working at the moment, whether it's go-to meeting or whatever? Can we organize a time just to get together to talk through how we could possibly work together? That's the whole phone call. Now, it could go quite differently. It could be a case that you ring up and you say, hey, it's Julian from Wireless Mouse Association. I'm just calling to find out if you've received my proposal I sent you. You can't miss it. It's got the newest, coolest wireless mouse on the front. And they'll say, yes, I've received that. And you can say, well, have you had a chance to read it? No. Not a problem. I'll give you a call next week, because right now we know that everyone is going through a few challenges and you need as much time as possible to get to these things. Try not to push for this. You're not trying to sell anything. So you're not trying to go, well, I'm on the phone to you now, I'm going to sell. Your proposal will do that. Your proposal will explain everything they need to know. Your job is just to organize an appointment to have a discussion at a later date. So don't information dump. The call, remember, the objective of the call is just to appointment set. And also, of course, these days, remember to smile. People are getting bombarded with bad news. So when you pick up the phone to call these people, be happy. It's one of the greatest things you can give someone at the moment, that one-off call that makes them smile. So with this, the phone calls, if you've got 40 or 50 potential calls to do a week, break them down. Don't do them all at once. Do 10 a day, each day. That way your entire list is called for each week. So one call a week per sponsor, 10 a day. Each day means you've done 50 calls that week. Next week you can do the same again. Remember, when you're leaving a message on these answer phones, it's simply, hi, it's Julian from this association. I'm just calling to ensure you've received my proposal. I'll give you a call next week. Otherwise, give me a call back when you get a chance. My number is 0401 648 533. That number again is 0401 648 533. Take care. Speak soon. Next week, you call again, and you leave another message. You just get happier. Then the following week, same again. Hey, it's only me again. It's just Julian from this association. Just trying to touch base to ensure you've received my awesome proposal about how we can work together and crack the challenge you're trying to overcome. Number again, and you just get happier, because when they actually do get to their voicemail, you want to be the person that they call back next, not the person who's getting grumpy and that goes, oh, do you ever answer your phone? We don't want that practice. You want to be the person that they go, oh, they sound happy, I'm going to call them before I call the grumpy ones back. So when you leave a message, name, telephone number twice, give them time to write that number down. And then simple brief message, it's just me calling from this association to ensure you've received my proposal. Easy to access, easy to answer, nice, straightforward call to action. And remember, when they do call you back, and they will, it's simply a case of saying, all I need to know is, have you had a chance to read it? And if you have, can we organize an appointment for you and I to work through how we could possibly work together? You're not asking for money at this point. I mean, the money comes way down the track. What we want to do is just get the opportunity to have that discussion. The more discussions you have, the more partnerships you'll win. And the more discussions you have, very quickly you'll establish that some of these organizations you've identified aren't correct. They're not ones that you want to work with. They've changed their objective. They've changed their stance, whatever it may be. So don't be afraid after that first meeting to say no. There's lots of partners out there. There's lots of people seeking partnerships, and you have to choose the right one for your organization. Face-to-face. Now, the face-to-face, it will come back. It won't be long. It used to be a case where networking events and you could go and meet the partners, and from the networking events you could then go through to all kinds of different scenarios. But these days, that's not relevant. The best one right now is the phone or email. If you have too many to call because you're calling exhibitors, for instance, or you're following up on, get an outbound call center, get someone like the Optimum Contact here in Brisbane to do the calls for you, an appointment set. All of that can be done. So face-to-face, it will return, we know it will. And you'll be able to go to their networking drinks events. And if you turn up to an accountant's, like a KPMG networking drinks, quite honestly, you'll be the most exciting person there. It's one of the most straightforward ways to meet the partners of KPMG or Deloitte or whoever it may be. And it's just, again, appointment setting. Here's my business card, here's yours. Look, I know there's something we can work with together. Can I give you a call next week, tomorrow? It's very straightforward. Very few people use the face-to-face, yet it's super straightforward. However, do keep in mind, this is whence all our restrictions have been lifted. So now you've identified who they are. You've gone through the trade magazines, you've gone through the newspapers, you've gone through the news articles, you've done the circle in the middle and worked your way through. You understand who you can deliver value to. From that value, you've then gone through and understood who you can actually get in front of and how they could offer your members value and how your members can be more successful from this relationship. You've then approached them either by email or by phone, you've had a conversation, and you've gone to that next point where you're going to have a meeting. And that meeting is simply a pitch, but it's a discussion. It's not a sales meeting. It's simply a discussion. So when you're making the pitch, it's about having a discussion where they feel comfortable. So you need to know who you're meeting with, their role, their objectives. You need to, and LinkedIn helps on this type of thing. Then you don't use PowerPoint the way we're doing now. This is simply so you've got something to refer back to and you understand how to move forward. So with this, we're not going to inflict death by PowerPoint. Your meeting will be a Zoom meeting, a go-to meeting, whatever it may be. And it's your opportunity to see each other and have a discussion about your concept and how you can deliver that and what's in it for them. And in return, what that means to your members. Make sure you have your industry research, because they may ask a question, well, they almost guaranteed to ask the question, well, how many members do you have? How many non-members do you engage with? How many stakeholders do you engage with in total? What's their genders? What's their geographical location? What's their job roles? What's the average purchasing power of each of those individuals? What's the seniority level required to buy these products and make the purchasing decision? Who within the organization makes the purchasing decision for my products? All of that's going to be asked of you. You're going to need to establish your value to these sponsors and how you can assist them to engage with your members. So do have your industry research with you. Be able to make a decision. If they turn around and say, look, in the current climate, our social media policy has changed. So yes, we want to be involved in your events. Yes, we want to be involved in your comms. Yes, we want to be involved in the marketing. Yes, we want to be involved in your research. But no, we do not want to be involved in your social media because the guidelines that we're using are different. So with that in mind, you're asking for $45,000. So if we remove the social media component, can we go ahead tentatively on 40,000? Be able to make the decision. If you have to then go, oh, I'm not sure, let me make a call and come back to you, they're going to want to speak to the person you're calling. So make sure you have some autonomy. Make sure you have the ability to make that decision if required. And remain confident. There's nothing worse than someone who's very timid, that won't engage and drive the conversation, that steers the conversation. Remember, it's just a conversation and it's an initial one. So remember, you are the person that knows most about your association. You're the person that knows most about the events, about the comms, about the open rates, about the members, what their challenges are, how they're dealing with it, what the biggest challenges within your sector, how you're assisting the members to overcome this, why you've contacted the corporate and why you want them specifically to partner with you so that you can help the members. And in return, that will help them be more successful with a greater market penetration, which of course turns into profitability. So remember, you are the person with all the information. So you should be confident and you should be able to have that conversation and drive that conversation and steer it in a way that they feel confident to move ahead and progress this type of conversation around how the partnership would work. So keep in mind, it's up to you to keep that conversation going. If it's a stilted conversation, it's because you've not actually driven that in the way that they've felt comfortable enough to progress and move forwards. Rehearse this, practice this, sit in front of one of these cameras with one of these lights at the front and get comfortable with it. It takes time. Don't be afraid to jump straight in. You will lose a couple. It's okay. There's thousands of partnerships out there, and then some of them are just as good as others. So what we want to do is practice, practice, practice. Yes, it's a new way of doing things, but yes, it's actually better because you're able to call up a range of documents. You're able to call up a video of your last event and show them live footage of the last event. You're able to share your screen with them. You're able to share your enthusiasm. Right now, meetings are like we've never had before. We can call on all our arsenal to bring together a simple meeting that they can see live events, that they can see the recordings, they can see the numbers, they can see the documents. Right now, it's easier to have those sort of discussions than ever before. So when you're in the meeting and the meeting's coming and it's concluding, you do need to ask. And you do need to ask in the way that makes you most comfortable. No one gets to this point and enjoys it. The money aspect is so small and such a tiny aspect of partnerships that people get truly hung up on it. Remember, if you're organizing a year, 3-year, 5-year agreement, realistically, it will take exactly the same amount of time as a 3-month, 6-month agreement. And if you're really making them successful with an offer that they've never seen before or considered before or know of before, well, you're going to be the one that has to say to them, at the end of all this, we seem to have an understanding there's something to progress. So if you like what we've discussed, would you like to go ahead with this? It's a very soft way of asking. And it is something you do need to ask though, because at the end of that question, you'll get a response either, yes, this is something I think we consider. However, there's a few things obviously out there that I don't understand, but I'll get back to you. Or they'll come back and go, well, if you can answer those questions, it looks like something we could move forwards with. Or they'll say no. Either way, you now know whether it's worth progressing or if it's not. It's better than ever being left in limbo, not knowing whether this thing is moving forwards or not. You don't have time right now with maybes. You don't have time right now with could we, couldn't we. Right now, you need some confirmations that they are interested with the right components brought together with a created where they get a say in this and you get a say in this, and you can work together to create that partnership so that they understand all the details, all the deliverables, and of course, all the financials. And you understand the same. Moving forwards on that basis is almost guaranteeing success of your partnership. Success for the sponsor and the partner, success for you, and most importantly, success for your members, making their lives better. So do ask. It's critical that you do, so that you have the reassurance that in the future, you know what's happening. You don't want to have 2 or 3 weeks going past going, I don't know if we've got this or not. That ambiguity is just so awkward. Now, once you've got these say, yes, we want to go ahead, and the no's have long forgotten, well, now you have to retain the sponsor. And this is where the hard work comes in. You've had a couple of meetings, you've got the contract, you've pulled together all the deliverables, you've put together an implementation plan of all the deliverables across the term of the contract, and they know what they have to produce for you to send out. They know when they've got to produce some presentations for events and all that side of things. So right now, you have to actually service them. And that servicing is where the real work goes in. So yes, you have to produce a return on investment reports as agreed in the contract on what you're reporting on. Monthly newsletters, subscribe them, whether they asked or not, because if they're your partner, it's always lovely to see what this partnership is doing, how it's progressing, what content you're putting into your newsletters, and how people are responding to that content. A monthly phone call at the minimum, absolute minimum. If you haven't heard from a sponsor and partner that's paying you to do a delivery and promote their products and services out to your members, and they're not getting a response back on how that's all going, at least monthly, call them and ask why you haven't heard from them, and have some good information to tell them. A relationship takes time, and it takes 2 people to build. If you haven't heard from them, it's up to you now to establish this relationship on the stronger footing, and for you to call them and let them know how this partnership's going and give them some good news. A quarterly lunch, those days are nearly gone. Quarterly lunches tend to be financial sector. They tend to be your accounting, your forensic accountants, your Deloitte, McGraths, all that type of thing. And they tend to be your old school bankers. And so with that in mind, understand every sponsor needs looking after differently. The newer, more tech-laden use tech. The older, more established and kind of organizations tend to still hang on to some of those traditions. So be ready and ask, how would you like to do this? Of course, we're going to invite them to every event. Just because they're partners of 3 or 4 of your events, and just because they're partners within your comms and your marketing and your research, if you're running other events, invite them. The cost is negligible, and the relationship with the person that signs your checks should be all established. So do invite them to every event. It's just polite. They most likely won't turn up. And if they do, well, take them by the hand and introduce them to your chairperson and your CEO and everyone else. It's your role as that sponsorship or partnership director to really hold their hand at these events and help them meet new people. Relationship building takes time. Don't underestimate how much time. If you're looking to achieve a couple of $100,000 in income across 4 or 5 partners, this will take us 6 to 8 months to finalize. It will take time to really get into this, and that's repeated identification of partners, repeated approach of different partners, repeated meetings, understanding. From there, it will be writing of contracts and implementation plans, and then continuously engaging with them at minimum of monthly to let them know what's going on. This is a relationship like every other relationship. The more you put into this, the more you'll get out of this. Now, of course, once you've got that sponsor retained, we now move in to the Q&A time of this aspect. And I can see quite so many of you asking a few questions here, and I know some of those are a bit sensitive. So right now, everyone who's on the recording, go to answers.net.au. In the very top web link on this slide, there's a group there called Sponsorship Help. It's an online community that Answers set up. It's free to register, free to join. Just register, join, go to Sponsorship Help group, and people are on there every day asking questions and getting advice. I'm on there daily, and especially now when we're all in lockdown. And that way it really helps, especially with these sort of seminars where you can't do the Q&A, and if you're watching the recording. Also, join discussion groups. The seminars, we produce these so that people can get the training, but the discussion groups that come up really are just that. I will be online, others will be online, and we'll have a discussion around a particular topic. A couple of hours maximum. People drop in and drop out once they've asked their questions. It's super relaxed, easy to get involved with, and on premium memberships, you can access hundreds of these things. If this is the first time you've done partnerships and you're still not quite sure how to write a proposal, who to access, that type of thing, nip to my website, go to SMS Online and download the free templates and the resources. It's a great starting point. And if you want to talk to me about how I can assist your association one-on-one, email me or give me a phone call. The phone number's there. Thank you so much for watching this recording and attending live. And for the live people on the live stream, I can see you there. Please hold on. We'll get to the Q&A session. And for the people who are watching the recording, thank you again for attending. And I look forward to seeing you in the discussion groups and the chat room soon. Take care.